Hey yo, what's up, peace? It's your boy Hugh Cipher one more again coming at you, dropping some knowledge and wisdom via my YouTube channel. And this is kind of like a segue or a follow-up to my last video talking about racism. I was kind of inspired by the Justin Bieber incident and the guy Hyga, however you pronounce his name, his defense of Bieber's racism. And as I said in my last video, just so many people making comments on the commentary line just seem not to understand what racism really is. You know, this particular video, I'm going to touch on that a little bit, but actually I'm going to try to describe why so many whites or other ethnic groups don't recognize racism. Either they say it's not as bad as what it is, or some people even say there's no more racism, like after the 60s, racism is over with, you know, or they tend to say that it doesn't exist, as if after the 60s, you know, after Jim Crow ended, there's no more racism, like, you know, we're in a racism-free world. And you have a lot of reasons why this dynamic is so, you know, denial being one of the primary reasons. You know, people tend to be in denial about things that are harmful, ugly, unpleasant to them. You know, you just want to shut it out, you just want to deny it, you know, especially if you might feel that you're guilty of something. You want to deny any culpability with that particular dynamic. But another aspect of it is just that if you're not affected by something, it is difficult for you to say what that thing is or to even understand what that thing is. And I'm going to use a physics analogy to kind of describe how racism affects people differently throughout the world. For those of you familiar with physics, especially quantum physics, you may have heard of the Higgs Boson or the Higgs Field. Now, the Higgs Boson is the particle that gives mass to objects. It is the particle that makes something heavy or light. So within the Higgs field, all of us pass through it. Every atom, every quark, every particle passes through the Higgs field, and depending how that particle is affected by the Higgs field makes it light or makes it heavy, or, you know, anywhere in between. So in a lot of ways, racism is like the Higgs field. A lot of what we call systemic racism is racism that is inherent within the fabric of the society, within the culture, within the social, economic, and educational system that affects people long range. I'm going to use that analogy for systemic racism actually throughout the world, because actually racism is a world dynamic, and not all black people are affected the same by racism. Some of us go through life dealing with minor irritating racism. Some of us, say like say myself, I've had people try to actually run me off the road and kill me because of the base of my color, you know, and you have everything in between. So if you could kind of get this analogy that racism is like the Higgs field. So being an African American, you're affected by systemic racism a lot differently than, say, an Asian or white or even a Latino in certain cases. There are certain things Latinos experience that I don't experience. There are certain things that Native Americans experience that African Americans don't experience, and vice versa. There have been instances where other groups have been affected by something that you know, my first reaction to it was like kind of silly. Like, you know, for example, Pharrell wearing the Indian headdress. You know, I didn't think that was racist at all. But a lot of Native Americans disagreed with that. They felt that it was offensive, and just being a person that is socially conscious and attempting to practice tolerance and throughout my life, if a group of people says something offends them, I either respect that or I disrespect it, you know. And it's not really hard for me to respect somebody else's pain, or, you know, at least acknowledge it. You know, I don't understand it, you know, especially in the particular instance with, Pharrell and Indian headdress, but I'm gonna respect their feelings on it, and like, hey, yo, you know what, man, I won't rock your headdress. And so, in conclusion, just to give people another analogy, probably amongst a myriad of analogies of what racism is, how it affects people, and actually why you have so many different groups of people saying, oh, there's no racism, it's all in their minds. And I mean, they're simply not affected by the systemic racism the way that some other groups are. And if you're not affected by something, you have no knowledge of it, really, So in conclusion, that is my analogy on racism. More videos to follow. We'll be building on some history next episode. I'm going to get into a little something and target another YouTube guy out there that has been building on some rather inaccurate and faulty historical, archaeological, and scientific data. Again, this is the Hugh Cipher. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Hotep. Peace.